All right, so I'm just going to say that one more time. So this is the radical symbol, and it represents the positive square root. So it only takes the square root of positive numbers. So if you had, let's say, the square root of 4, all right, then the answer is a positive number. You might have an example that says the square root of -4. If that's the case, you need to change it to the negative sign outside of the radical sign so that it's the square root of 4. And if that's the case, then it equals negative and then whatever the square root of 4 is, which is 2. So the answer would be -2. Up here, we just have the square root of 4. So the answer is just 2. So it says, what is the square root of 64? And the answer is 8, because 8 times 8 down here equals 64. This one is pretty simple and self-explanatory. So what is the square root of 36? We know 6 times 6 is 36, so the answer is 6. What's the square root of 25? We know 5 times 5 is 25, so the answer has to be 5. All right, and then so forth. I'm going to go back now. All right, so now positive and negative square roots. So what is the square root of 25? Again, the radical symbol right here, all right, it represents the positive square root. Every positive number has a positive square root and a negative square root. So to find the square root of a given number, figure out which number is squared. Let's do some examples. This is very similar. It just really depends on the problems. So in this situation, we have the square. What is the negative square root of 4? So what is the square root of 4? The square root of 4 is 2, right? If that's the case, then the negative sign is now outside. So now you do -1 times 2, and so it should be -2. What is the negative square root of 1? So basically, the negative square root of 1. So this means it's -1 times the square root of 1. So the answer should be -1, because it's -1 times the square root of 1 is 1. So -1 times 1 is -1. What is the positive square root of 49? All right. So if they're asking about the positive, basically, they're saying we're looking at the positive square root of 49. So it's turning into +1 times the square root of 49. Usually when it's the positive, we don't really look at that. We don't usually put that plus sign in front of it. We just say square root of 49 like this. And the square root of 49, the positive one, would be 7. And then so forth. All right. So basically, if there's a negative sign in front, make sure you put a negative sign in front of your answer. If it's talking about positive, you don't need a plus sign. You just put down the answer, just the number. All right, now we're going to look at the relationship between squares and square roots. All right. It says to find the square of a given number, you multiply that number by itself. So for example, we have this right here, the number 9. So if you're going to square 9, that's basically doing 9 times 9. So to find the square root of a given number, you need to figure out which number squared equals that given number. So if I were to look at the square root, all right, so 9 times 9 is 81, right? I want to do the opposite, all right? So when you square when you square a number, all right, you go from